and welcome to Deep Dive on NewsX World. I'm Ellie Richardson. Today we focus on a stirring political and financial scandal, the alleged connections between Lord Peter Mandelson and prominent figure in UK politics and Jeffrey Epstein. Files released recently by the US Department of Justice have cast a new light on Mandelson's dealings while he held high office in Gordon Brown's government. Let's start with who the Lord Mandelson is and the case's history. Peter Mandelson, born in 1953, is a former Labour politician, lobbyist and diplomat. He was MP for Hartlepool from 1992 to 2004 and held cabinet roles under Blair and Brown, including Business Secretary, Northern Ireland Secretary and First Secretary of State. He served as British Ambassador to the US in 2025 under Keir Starmer, focusing on trade and US relations. Mandelson helped rebrand Labour as New Labour and was known as a spin doctor or Prince of Darkness. He resigned twice from cabinet posts over controversies including an interest-free loan and passport influence. In 2025, scandals emerged over his links to Jeffrey Epstein and emails suggested exchange of information too. Now to the exchange of money between Epstein and Mandelson. Between 2003 and 2004, Jeffrey Epstein made 3 payments totaling to $25,000 to accounts linked to Peter Mandelson. May 2003, funds sent to a Barclays account held by Mandelson partner Reinaldo da Silva. 2 further payments sent to HSBC accounts associated with Mandelson. Additional payments to da Silva reported in 2009 and 2010. In 2003, Mandelson also took 2 flights funded by Epstein worth $7,486. Emails reveal Mandelson attempted to influence government policy on bankers' bonuses and referred to Epstein as my chief life advisor in 2010. So, what other information was exchanged between Mandelson and Epstein? Newly released documents from the US Justice Department include emails between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. Those emails show Mandelson sharing internal briefings on UK government policy during his time in office. In particular, the correspondence discussed government actions on bankers' bonuses, tax policy and response measures during times of economic upheaval. Information that was not public and that critics say could have given Epstein advantage in understanding market and policy shifts. Additionally, some emails appear to have included memos intended for top Whitehall officials, potentially signifying that Epstein had access to market-sensitive government documents earlier than broader public. The release of these documents has sparked a criminal investigation. The Metropolitan Police have opened inquiries into allegations that Mandelson may have committed misconduct in public office by sharing confidential material with a non-government figure. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called the alleged actions disgraceful, and the government has handed key documents to Scotland Yard for further review. But alongside the financial and email revelations, the latest Epstein files have also revealed controversial photos. Images of Peter Mandelson, the former UK ambassador, in his underwear have emerged in the documents. One redacted photo shows Mandelson standing next to a woman whose face is obscured. It is not known when or where these photos were taken. Mandelson commented on the photo, stated that he cannot place the location or who the woman and cannot think what the circumstances were. In the midst of this scandal, the primary questions remain. 1. Did Mandelson ensure the Secretary of Market-sensitive information? 2. Did Epstein use any of this information for personal advantage? we will continue to follow his story as investigations progress and more documents come to light. To continue this discussion forward, we are joined by Cheyenne Batra, who's a British politician and political commentator who's joining us from London. Thank you so much for joining us here today for this episode of Deep Dive. How did Peter Mandelson's interactions with Jeffrey Epstein develop over the years? And what do we know about the timeline and context of their relationship within UK politics and Mandelson's diplomatic career?
Well, quite rightly, you said from the beginning that, they've been friends for a very, very long time, I think spanning maybe 40 years. And just to illustrate to you that the picture where he's in his underwear, it was in Paris, in Epstein's flat, one of his flats. Epstein had a lot of apartments all over the world. There was many in London, Paris, Germany, all over the place. But I think when in 2003-4, when things were really rough and tumbly, there was money being passed, like you clearly said. It's absolutely correct. 3 payments, 25,000 each. And then a separate fund of £10,000 was sent in 2009 in support to De Silva's osteopathy course and expenses, i.e. his partner, no doubt, I'm sure. But the fact that Mandelson's had a history of playing games like this. He's abused his position many times and was collared back and then given opportunities and chances. Even up until last year, he was ambassador to the UK for the US? Knowing full well what he hid inside him. People have memories. They just decide when they don't want to use them and they can't find the information. But while he was a business secretary, the documents that were sent, there is one thing that you may not know about or do know about, is that he even told, Mandelson told Epstein about the Euro bailout before the Euro bailout was going to happen. And that could have been a distinct advantage to him in terms of all types of bankers and everything else that was going on at the time. That was before it was publicly announced. Of course, it did happen at the end of the day. So Epstein was no fool. He was quite a smart character. He cajoled a lot of prominent presidents, prime ministers from all over the globe. In fact, even sending emails to Putin, which we've understood now, it's very recent information about Putin, that he's denying that he's never met him, etc. But there's always been emails flowing to him via the Norwegian president, I think, to try and cajole him into coming to have a meeting with each other. So going back to Mandelson, he is in a bitter situation. He's a disgrace. He should not be in the House of Commons. I know he's resigned, but failing all of that, being an advisor to the government and an ambassador and a diplomat at the same time is despicable. How can our own country face this? A prominent person like him, who had everything at his fingertips. He didn't have to deal with the likes of Epstein, but everybody did, as you know. They were all constantly involved in whatever was going on because he was the man of the moment at that time. And a lot of money talks as well. So now I know that the investigation has fully opened, with the UK police have now been fully informed and are fully involved in a lot of confidential information. In fact, I've just seen a post this morning coming in saying for a petition for Starmer to release all of the Mandelson files, because they're still holding the Mandelson files with Epstein. And we don't know what else is in there. There's a lot more information in there that needs to come out. It's very sensitive information, and it hasn't been done. And of course, he hasn't been criminally charged yet. And I assume that that is going to happen.
And what implications arise from the documented payments and funded flights from Epstein to Mandelson and his partner? And could these financial links have created conflicts of interest or undue influence?
I think so, definitely. Paying for In our country, when you're running for any type of election, you can't just take your own money, etc., and start using it for political causes. You have to get funded by people who are from this country, in effect. The way he's been paying for his tickets and stuff, I think goes against our own country's rules as such. There might be something going on there where there might be a further investigation as to why and how did Epstein pay for his tickets and which way. Because technically speaking, if Mandelson's a government official at a very high level, he would be in a position to deny those payments and say, well, my government will pay, or I will pay, or something will happen. But this was all hidden, and I believe that that information may possibly be in the Starmer files, I think, for Mandelson and Epstein, because they haven't been released yet. There's so much information in there alone, including the files of meetings with Putin as well. So it's anyone's guess right now what is going to happen and who paid for his tickets and why the high lifestyle, and what was it? What was the achievement? What was the outcome?
And based on release emails and documents, what specific government policy updates or market-sensitive information did Mandelson allegedly share with Epstein? And what potential consequences could this have had for the UK financial oversight?
Well, as Mandelson was a business secretary, he was at that time, he was under Gordon Brown's prime ministership. And I believe Gordon Brown has just contacted the police yesterday evening to further give more evidence, more information. But Mandelson would have had a lot of government and internal government documents and briefings, such as information on sensitive economic policy, bailout plans, government assets being sold. At that time, I believe UK's assets were being sold to the Qataris, I think, the skyline of UK, of London. And Epstein was given detailed information about all of these things like taxation as well, what financial policy was going to be, the financial regulatory approaches as well that was going on at the time. But the biggest one that he did squeal on is the 500 billion euro bailout, which, you know, there was a lot of money being involved there. And this was way before the publicity came out on it on its own. So that I think there's probably far more. Mandelson treated Epstein as a business guru in a sense, and a close confidant, a best friend. And when Mandelson says that I didn't have many ties with him, it's a complete pack of lies, because Mandelson was in bed with him in figures. But I mean, because he was told about, he treated Mandelson as if he is his advisor. So, and he would be able to advise him on economic policy and government thinking as well, such things. So maybe Mandelson got most of his information from Epstein and then passed it to the government at the time to start implementing things. You know, he had a long-standing personal relationship, early 2000s. We're going back long time. And he still continued to contact him after the conviction date, you know, 2008. So it's just like, this is one of the biggest smashes in UK history, I think, to have an official of the government playing his game and his role, knowing full well, if he had come clean before he took the ambassadorship role, which I would have thought he could have done, even showing some kind of transparency, then I think he would have saved himself. But he lied about his appointment. You know, he lied about everything, even to the appointment of being the US ambassador. That's a big thing. That's a massive thing to do that. But I think it's too late to say that I regretted my association with Epstein. You were playing the game all along. And I also think that his personal bank accounts should be looked at all over the place, because if Epstein had money all over the world, there's plenty of ways he could have paid for his tickets and other things in other ways. You know, who's to show that Mandelson sitting on a plane, no one's going to know, are they? So the money changes hands very rapidly. When governments want to hide things, they do, because in our world, I say this openly, I believe in transparency, not secrecy. All we are faced with is always secrecy, not transparency. People should be honest and open.
Okie, thank you so much for joining us here today on our episode of Deep Dive. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And that wraps up this edition of Deep Dive. We'll continue to follow the Mandelson-Epstein story and bring you all the latest developments. Stay tuned to NewsX World for in-depth analysis.